In 1937, China was weak, divided, and on the verge of collapse. By 1949, a new China emerged, unified under a revolutionary government that would reshape global politics for the next century. What happened in between? The answer lies in one of the most brutal conflicts in modern Asian history, Japan's invasion of China. But here is the deeper question. Did the invasion destroy China, or unintentionally forge the foundations of modern China? If you value deep, fact-based historical documentaries, take a moment to share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more interesting and knowledge-based content. Now let's go back to a China that looked nothing like the global power we know today. To understand how the invasion transformed China, we must first examine the condition of the country in the early 20th century. To understand how the invasion transformed China, we must first examine the condition of the country in the early 20th century. Instead of national unity, China fractured into competing warlord territories. Regional military leaders controlled provinces, and central authority in Beijing, later Nanjing, was fragile. The Nationalist Party, or Kuomintang, KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek, attempted to unify the country during the Northern Expedition of the 1920s. Although some consolidation occurred, China remained politically divided and economically underdeveloped. Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, founded in 1921, was still a small revolutionary movement operating largely in rural areas. After violent purges by the Nationalists in 1927, the Communists retreated and survived through guerrilla warfare, most famously during the Long March, 1934 to 1935. By the mid-1930s, China was not a unified modern state. It was internally divided, economically fragile, and militarily weak. Without external pressure, would China have ever unified under a single political authority? Japan had already begun expanding into Chinese territory with the occupation of Manchuria in 1931, establishing the puppet state of Manchukuo. However, full-scale war erupted in 1937 after the Marco Polo Bridge Incident near Beijing. What followed was the Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937 to 1945, one of the deadliest conflicts of the 20th century. Japanese forces rapidly captured major Chinese cities, including Shanghai and Nanjing. The fall of Nanjing was followed by the Nanjing Massacre, in which hundreds of thousands of civilians and prisoners of war were killed. The invasion devastated China's economy and infrastructure. Millions were displaced. Industrial capacity in eastern China was destroyed or forced inland. But paradoxically, the invasion also forced political realignment. Faced with national survival, the Nationalists and Communists formed a temporary united front against Japan. For the first time, both sides were fighting under the banner of Chinese resistance. Before the invasion, the CCP was marginal and regionally isolated. During the war, that changed dramatically. While the nationalist government bore the brunt of conventional battles against Japan, the Communists expanded their influence in rural areas through guerrilla warfare and land reform policies. They positioned themselves as defenders of the peasantry and organizers of resistance behind enemy lines. As the war dragged on, corruption and inflation weakened the nationalist government. Many civilians suffered under economic collapse and wartime mismanagement. Meanwhile, the CCP gained legitimacy by mobilizing rural populations, expanding membership, and building parallel governance structures in liberated zones. By 1945, the Communist Party had grown from a small revolutionary movement into a mass political force with millions of supporters. The war had given it time, space, and nationalist credibility. Japan's invasion forced China's industrial base to relocate westward, particularly the Chongqing and Sichuan. Factories, universities, and government institutions moved inland to escape occupation. This relocation had long-term consequences. It spread industrial capacity beyond the coastal regions and laid foundations for future national integration. The war also strengthened centralized planning habits. Mobilizing resources for total war required coordination at a national level. Modern China's later emphasis on centralized mobilization has roots in this wartime experience. When Japan surrendered in 1945, the fragile alliance between the Nationalists and Communists collapsed. The Chinese Civil War resumed. However, the balance of power had shifted dramatically compared to the pre-war period. The Nationalists were exhausted, economically strained, and facing public discontent. The Communists had expanded their military forces, rural support, and political legitimacy. By 1949, the CCP defeated the Nationalists, who retreated to Taiwan. On October 1, 1949, the People's Republic of China was proclaimed in Beijing. Modern China had emerged not solely because of invasion, but profoundly shaped by it. But how the invasion shaped modern China? Japan's invasion did not create China. Chinese civilization is thousands of years old. But the invasion reshaped China's political structure, national identity, and power trajectory. It accelerated the collapse of fragmented governance, strengthened centralized authority, expanded communist political legitimacy, fostered a powerful narrative of national humiliation and resistance, deepened anti-imperialist ideology, embedded wartime mobilization as a governing model. The experience of invasion and resistance became central to modern Chinese national identity. Even today, memory of the war influences China's foreign policy posture and emphasis on sovereignty. Japan's invasion was catastrophic for China in human cost and destruction. But historically, it became a turning point. The war weakened existing power structures, strengthened revolutionary forces, fostered national unity under extreme conditions, and reshaped political legitimacy. Without the invasion, China's internal struggle between nationalists and communists may have unfolded differently, perhaps more slowly, perhaps with another outcome. Instead, total war accelerated transformation. Modern China emerged from trauma, resistance, and revolutionary restructuring. History often moves through crisis. In China's case, invasion did not end the nation. It forced a reinvention. And from that crucible, a new political order was born, one that continues to shape global geopolitics today.